Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Clinton here. You're somebody that's been super versatile. I think one of the most versatile people in the music industry, alive today. I mean, you've been able to have entrepreneurial pursuits. You've been able to produce incredible records and hit songs. You're also somebody who's a writer in this space, and you're also now trying to lead the future of gaming with the Global Gaming League. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Thank you. Did you say trying or that I already am
You
leading
are.
the gaming space? Oh, I wasn't sure if I heard it right. All right. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So just going back to the beginning, like how did your interest in the world of music and wanting to be somebody who would make music and DJ, how did that passion of yours begin?
Oh man. That started as a kid being a broken, lonely kid who my best friend was my radio.
Mm.
Everything I know, I learned from my radio as a kid. So much so I wrote a song about it. It's on Spotify. It's called Radio. Um, But yeah, so that's what interested me in music. My mother played music all the time in the house when she was cleaning the house or when I'm in the back seat of the car. So I think my mom's really what introduced me to music. And then I found solace in music. And then it was just something I did intuitively and naturally. So I would try to manipulate songs on my mother's dual cassette deck stereo when I was a kid. And then I gradually just kind of managed to get my own equipment somehow. Well, that somehow was being a criminal, and and then I just became the guy that made music around the neighborhood. So like all the older kids when I was 13, all the 18-year-olds would come over the house, and I did everything from rap to beatbox, to dance to DJ, and then that just carried me into my adulthood. Just I would be a dancer and I'd win talent shows, and I was a performer and a rapper, and I would do all that stuff. And then when I became an adult, and I was like, I can't be a criminal anymore or a loser. I need to make my music aspirations a real career. So that's what got me into making music a career and being successful at it.
Mm. What really enabled you to launch music as a career? Was it the radio stuff you were doing? You were, I think, hosting different radio shows, Hot 97.7 in Boston. Was that kind of like the big launch pad?
Uh, I guess that's what would make a lot more people be able to hear me at once was getting myself on radio. And then I built my own syndicated radio show in 22 markets around the world. But it started with making mixtapes and it started with producing everybody locally and doing shows. So locally in Boston, where I'm from, I was known out in the streets because I was out here producing and performing. Then when I got on the radio, then it just made more people be able to hear, me as a DJ. So I don't think I ever had like one big break, or something that's like I'm totally in now. I think it was a series of continuous accomplishments that kept solidifying my talent and my worthiness of being accepted and respected for what I do. And like even to this day, I still feel like I'm still trying to prove myself. I'm still trying to make more people get familiar. I'm still trying to outdo what I've already done.
Mhm. So once you had this radio presence and a lot of people were hearing you, like you mentioned, the kind of scale that had, how did you go and take that into really be producing songs, making songs, and get songs to become hits? I mean, you understood what radio was like and what would work well, but how did you start to really formulate your own craft in this area?
Well, I was doing that before I got on radio. I used radio as a means to get my original production heard. And I did that with mixtapes too. I made mixtapes, and people used to say Clinton doesn't make mixtapes; he makes mini albums, because I would make a lot of original music on there and put them out as mixtapes. So I used one thing to lift up the other thing, to then lift up the next thing, to then lift up the next thing. So even when I got into radio, I knew that going into radio would give me access to artists and record labels. By getting me access to record labels, would give me access to produce records or to DJ parties. By doing everything I did was strategic to like take the next step and level up to other things. So it was built by design, and I always build a plan. When I have an idea, I then formulate a plan around how that idea is going to be turned into fruition and be successful. So, yeah, that's how it wasn't like I DJ'd and then got into production. I was a producer that used DJing as a Trojan horse to get into places where, one, people could hear my music, two, people could recognize my talent, and three, I could get into doors with executives that would now listen to me speak, that would now be like, man, this dude like knows what he's talking about. So it was all calculated.
Mm-hmm. What would you say was like kind of like some of the breakthrough moments for you when you were trying to get your music out there and you're trying to get people to listen to it? What were some, for like from the producing side of things, some of these breakthroughs that helped push you to a different place?
Well, there's so many things that broke me through to different things, like getting a publishing deal, getting a record deal, getting more known, like making more money. So, I mean, I think the first record, there's so many, it's hard to point one, but I think the one that really legitimized me into becoming a real songwriter and producer, as the industry would look at me, was a record I made for Akon called Sorry, Blame It On Me. So I wrote and produced that record, and then that debuted #7 on Billboard. And then the second big song I ever wrote and produced, Beyonce recorded it. So I think those are the two things back to back that was like, all right, I'm here now. Like, it's legit.
Do you think some of that was luck that kind of happened to be Beyonce got on that one, or was it just your hard work and effort and right place, right time?
I mean, it's all part of the recipe, right? Everything has some luck in it, no matter how great you are. And Michael Jordan could practice shooting all the time, but he gets that shot in the last second. It's a combination of skill and practice and a little bit of luck, right? So, yeah, I think that yeah, I think that's the recipe for anybody's success. But, you know, the more you work and the more effort you put in, the more experience that you gain, the more that you put that experience to practice to become even better, to learn how to win, repeat, win, repeat, win, repeat. I think it's less and less luck, but there's always still at least a percentage of luck in almost every success.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way to look at it too. I mean, what goes into your writing process? Do you have like a specific way that you're able to get into like a creative state, or is it just you kind of have something that hits you and you write it down? Like, how do you kind of write songs?
Well, me personally, I think the best creators are the ones that are broken and have pain. So, you know, all of my songs come from a real place. Like, I don't sit there and say, let me make a song. That's why you never hear me make songs about, you know, stepping in the club, popping some bub, in the VIP. Like, because I don't give a shit about that stuff. And it's not something that has any meaning to me, that I need to share it with others, right? So I don't go in and just try to make a song that fits the format. I go make a song that fits my feelings, but then I understand the science of what makes a hit record. So I just dump my feelings on, and then I'll go through and I'll tweak a little bit. Like, maybe this could be a different word that's more relatable, or maybe this melody can change this chord progression so it feels more like a hit. But I never let the limitations of making a hit record or doing what I think others will think is great. I do what I think is great, and I think that I've earned and realized that my version of great is widely accepted, from whether it's business or music. So I've learned to now trust that if I believe something is great, it's probably great, and it goes, and that's because not just from my personal taste or opinion or my ego speaking. It's from just any business. Like, if you're building a business and you see what works and what doesn't work, why it works, why it doesn't work, over time, you just really start realizing how to run the business better, right? So it's the same thing with you as a human being. Like, whether, let's even separate it from music. If you're constantly having girls tell you that you're a dick, or you're constantly getting fired from jobs, or you're a difficult dude to deal with, or you see people are always disagreeing with you, like, maybe it's you, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and most people don't know how to self-assess, and they're not self-aware to recognize changes they may need to make to improve on themselves, even as a person. And then you just apply that to business as well.
Yeah, being introspective is definitely very important. Sometimes it gets overlooked. I mean, there are so many songs, Clinton, that you've been behind that have been just major aspects of the culture we live in today. One of those is Born This Way, which I think was a really monumental song for you. Was there something you did production wise there that you think helped that become so successful? Was there something maybe you experimented with? Yeah, how did that song happen?
Yeah, so when we worked on the Lady Gaga Born This Way album, the records that we made, again, it's very scientific, right?
Mhm.
So you write your feelings or you produce your feelings, what you're feeling, the vibe, and then you'll go in and tweak a little bit. And I remember when we did Bloody Mary, which became a huge hit, 11 years later. Uh, Back then, when I made it, I knew it was a special record. In fact, I had the whole like the beginning like boom, 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 boom. I was like, man, they should come out like they're on puppet strings, doom, 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 and then like on stage, and then when it's like Gaga, there should be lights that say like Gaga, and it's like lights, lights, boom, boom, lights, lights. So like I have the whole vision of how you perform it, how you promote it, all that stuff when I make stuff. Like I don't just it's the same with business, man. Like I have the whole vision when I go in.
Mhm.
And it's just like with a song. Even in my marriage, in my family, like I understand everything and what we need to do to make this healthy and successful and prosperous and happy, right? So I apply those same rules in anything that I do I'm connected to. But in particular to Born This Way, yeah, we knew what we were doing. We knew we were making music that would resonate with Gaga's fans, but also stretching the boundaries of what a traditional person probably would have sent. Again, everybody would have just gave her Just Dance. You know what I mean? Let's just give her another pop song. It's like Just Dance, and it's like no, we got to like talk to other worlds, and like this had like a spooky kind of feel to it. And now because some genius was smart enough to take that song, speed it up, put it on TikTok, and it became a viral hit. That last year, it was like top 10 on every Billboard chart. Now I officially, much like Mariah Carey has her Christmas song, I now have a holiday song because every Halloween, Bloody Mary is now associated with Halloween and spooky, and it's on all the Halloween lists. So I will go down in history now for having a record that every Halloween gets played again. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, definitely awesome. It's great that you kind of stuck to your craft and your direction, and now later on people realize that, and that's just it's a testament to the trueness you have as an artist, and then and the authenticity. So you were always kind of entrepreneurial, Clinton. You were a business guy throughout this time. Was this something that like you wanted to bring more to the forefront? I mean, now you're building the global gaming league. You've got a really interesting approach to gaming. Was this something you were kind of thinking when throughout the music time, like I want to really focus on entrepreneurial pursuits and that being a big piece of my time later on? Like, how did this side of you develop?
Well, I mean, it's always been who I was. Music was a catalyst for people to listen to my ideas. And
Hmm.
my ideas always stemmed from how do I do things that connect cultures and help people in amplify great ideas, right? So I used music in DJing primarily. Like I never wanted to be a DJ. That wasn't my goal. I didn't have aspirations to be a DJ. It just worked. And you don't fight success. So if it's working, then I'm going to just put more into that thing because it's working, even though that wasn't the plan. I think a lot of people make that mistake too. Like they're so focused on it's got to be this way. I want it to work this way. That when this opportunity right here opens up, they just overlook it and just totally neglect something that could have helped them win, and they could have came back around to this by making that work. So I didn't do that, and I always wanted to be somebody that was a voice of the people and to help. I realized early on that I was a reasonable person. I know everybody thinks maybe that about themselves, but I realized that things had to be logical for it to make sense. So I would seek out the logic in things like that
Uh-huh.
doesn't make no sense. Okay, if I think it makes no sense, why doesn't it make no sense? And why does this person think it does when it doesn't? Right? So I really did a lot of like assessing psychologically on people. And it's because I cared enough back when I was young. I didn't fight it or say, "Oh, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about," because everybody's built different.
Hmm.
And what might be right to one person could be wrong to another person. And I was fascinated on how people could have completely opposing points of views and both think that they're right. Right. So I'm like, how does that exist? How does someone not see that that is actually a tree right there? And someone else is saying, no, it's not. It's like, this is odd. Right. So I really delved into understanding that at a young age. And by doing that and listening to people's feelings and psychology and deficiencies and sometimes mental health, like what we used to call crazy back in the day, right? And it's like when you realize that and you understand what people need to feel and what they're thinking and why they're thinking and where they came from, it really gives you a much better understanding of how to build the things that can help people and not just be transactional that makes money. So my goal was never to be an entrepreneur in today's definition of it, where most people are like, I want to be an entrepreneur. You ask them why? Because I want to be rich and famous, right? And it's like, I've always wanted to be, actually, I didn't even know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just knew I wanted to do dope things with dope people and help other people. The word entrepreneur wasn't a thing when I was starting out as a kid. I just knew that later on, I look back, I was like, wow, I was always an entrepreneur. But I didn't know that at the time. So, yeah, you know, if it doesn't help other people or it doesn't connect cultures or it doesn't bring happiness, then I'm not interested. I don't care if it's just something that makes a shit ton of money and we all get rich. That's not what excites me. There's enough people out here that can do that. I want to bring good to the world, and I want to show people the path to success and happiness, and that, you know, and what it takes to get there. And I think a lot of people think that if they're successful or they make a lot of money, that brings them happiness. And most people fool themselves to believe that if they make their dreams a reality, that they've now escaped their nightmares. And it's just simply not true.
Yeah, there's a lot of great points there, what you just said. I think that you now have also a pretty interesting life in terms of, you know, kind of how you balance all this. I mean, you've got Global Gaming League, you write for Entrepreneur, you've got a family, you've got music you're producing. How do you kind of balance that and give yourself this happiness and, you know, fulfillment and feel like you're doing something that's good for the world and holds up to the principles you just mentioned?
Well, I mean, the principles I just mentioned, that starts with building you, and that starts with building you by design. So everything I do is built off of the foundation of me. So the first thing one must do is build a great them, because the best IP you could ever create or build is you. So when you focus on doing that, then everything you do off of that was built off the foundation of being great. So what I think a lot of people do is make the mistake of, I got to try to find balance, as if they're separating these things, like they're compartmentalized parts of who you are or your life. But if they're just tentacles of you, then they're all part of you. A spider doesn't say, let me worry about that leg later. They're all part of him, right? So that's a horrible example, but like when you integrate them and keep them all together and they're all part of your plan, they're not so separated where you have to figure out enough time for your family because I'm working too much, or enough, I got to focus more on work, so I'm spending too much time with my family. You just make them all part of the one plan that you've built. And if you make that plan, then you're not worried or you're not neglecting a part that you should be paying attention to because you're trying to offset that by taking care of something else. So I love doing them all. So none of them feel like a distraction from happiness to me. So they're all just part of my life every day. And it's not hard to balance. I talk to my wife and kids, 6 times a day when I'm on the road or I'm working. I'm always working. I'm working 16, 17 hours a day. I stop and I eat. And when I'm eating, my brain regenerates with new ideas. So when I get back to work, I start going hard again. So, I mean, like, look, there was a long period of my life where I said no to nothing. And I was taking on everything. And I did that most of my life. That now if I remove some of that, I'm running, man, it's like I use this example when a batter is in the warming up to hit and they put a donut on the bat to make it heavier. So when they swing, when they take it off, they got a faster, harder swing. My whole life has trained me for that, from having to deal with so much shit. And then when I got into business, saying yes to everything, that it's just how I naturally operate. Like if I'm not doing 5 things, I feel whack and inadequate. That's just how I'm built.
Yeah, it's great you're self-aware of that too, and that you can handle this, and this is just the way you function best, and you realize that. What's kind of next for Global Gaming League? Like, this is a big, ambitious company here. You've already done some events. You want to really build a league that unifies the gaming world. There's so many gamers, billions in the world, but there isn't really a league yet. And that's what you're doing here. You're building that league. What's kind of the mission, the goal for this?
I'm glad you asked that because it's relative to almost everything that I just said. It's bringing cultures together. It's building international bridges. It's uplifting underserved communities. It's closing age gaps. It's providing opportunities and possibilities to people that otherwise wouldn't have it in the fastest growing form of entertainment in the world, which is video gaming. And when I helped build a company called FaZe Clan and then founded another company called Xset, I realized that although this is the fastest growing form of entertainment in the world, it's completely disconnected from mainstream pop culture in the streets. And we all play, but nobody has any meaningful way to get involved, to build businesses, to make money, to compete, to have an authentic footprint within gaming. And I realized that that was needed and wanted, and everybody was waiting and looking for it. And then building these other companies and then speaking at some of the biggest gaming and esports conferences, I realized that nobody's even thinking like this. Everyone's trying to push an esports circle into a cultural square, and it just doesn't work. And when you're like me and you come from the hood, you look at sports and music as a way out. Gaming is a third vertical that nobody's talking about. That's faster, cheaper, and safer than any other sport. So I knew that I could pull together my experience in entertainment and gaming and marketing, and I knew that I could connect with a lot of celebrities and influencers and rappers and athletes and executives that all want to be a part of gaming. They all know how big it is. They all know there's a bunch of money. They just don't know how to really connect to it in a meaningful way. So being someone that's been shaping and shifting culture for over 20 years and building culturally impacting brands that are still relevant today, I knew I was in a unique position that I could build the Global Gaming League. And so far, so good. It's all working and everyone's excited. And the community that we built is insane. The support, when we started putting out the call for new people to sign up to potentially be players in the league, we got over 150,000 people signed up in a few weeks. Yeah, and pretty quickly we got over 10,000 subs on YouTube, 100,000 on Facebook. And that again shows me, wow, people really want this. And people are really hardcore at supporting this and building this community. And we call everybody in that's down with us the Global Gang. So get familiar with the Global Gaming League.
So Clinton, what's the roadmap here now? What are kind of the next steps for you? You've already got this great, fledgling community. People love this. They want to be a part of it in the way that you're bringing gaming to them. What's kind of the roadmap now? What do you hope to accomplish?
To build the world's most successful and inclusive gaming entertainment empire for everybody to prosper and be a part of and be able to become successful, build a business in it. Some people may become superstars, and that's the goal. And I know that gaming can bring so many different sectors of business together in a way that nothing else can. Sports is close, music is close, but this even brings music and sports involved. You know what I mean? So I'm converging gaming, music, sports, art, celebrity, competition, and culture all in one kind of company with the Global Gaming League. So it's exciting because people that game, their lifestyle, is connected to all these things, but there's nothing bringing all these things back.
Yeah. I think it's a big problem that you're solving here. And gaming is kind of like a weird space where it's like everybody games. It's like the most popular form of entertainment in the world, but it's just not unified yet. And that's what you're doing here. You're unifying and you're bringing people together. And that's a huge opportunity that you're realizing.
Yeah, thank you.
So just in terms of personal goals, Clinton, are there certain things you're right now trying to achieve at this point personally, areas that you really want to develop in, new ideas you have? What would some of those be?
Just growing the Global Gaming League so it can accomplish all of the things that I was just saying for other people. I was just saying the other night, it's amazing to have already had a happy ending to your life and your life hasn't ended. And I already have that. I have everything I've always wanted, and I worked hard to get it. I've built the family that I've always wanted. I've built the reputation that I'm proud of. My son, who's now 20 years old, works with me at the Global Gaming League, and he's like a better version of me, which I'm excited about. And just being able to still build stuff to help other people and unite people is like, my life is almost as close to perfect as one could ever ask for. So to continue to be able to help more people and, keep my family safe, I guess those would be the two things that I focus on.
Those are awesome. Well, that's all the questions I had. I appreciate you taking the time and doing this. I think you've had an incredible life so far, and like you just mentioned, you've lived already a pretty full life. And I'm excited to see what you're going to do with the Global Gaming League. I think it's a major opportunity to unify a space and give a lot of people purpose and, like you mentioned, a way out and a career in a space that they love. And that's going to be, if that continues to go in the direction that you're leading it in now, it's going to continue to be major. And I'm excited to see that. So thanks for coming on, Clinton, and taking the time to do this.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And anybody watching right now, you can follow us at Global Gaming League, or you can follow me at Clinton Sparks. Get familiar.